What's up, everyone? It's time to discuss the 11th film I saw at this year's Melbourne International Film Festival. Surprisingly, a video game movie that has been doing the festival run, Exit 8. This film was one of my most anticipated of the fest, as were many of the films on the tail end of the festival. So, let's get into it. So as I said, probably the back 4 or 5 movies of this festival were just the ones that I was really looking forward to. And that run started with Nouvelle Vague, which I've already discussed on this channel, and I highly recommend you go check that video out. But Exit 8 is based off the kind of viral video game, I guess, that I have never really played or dived too deeply into, which is crazy because I am a big video game guy. I absolutely have enjoyed the works of people like Hideo Kojima, and I am a huge Sony PlayStation fanboy, make of that what you will. But Exit 8 probably didn't work its way into my periphery just because it's more of a PC-based game and was quite small, but it definitely did take off, and I had faintly heard of it even though I haven't played it. The film seems to be a pretty faithful adaptation of that video game, and I think fans of the game will really enjoy this. And I think as someone who doesn't really understand too much about this game, I learned a lot about it and had some fun with its narrative, but I do think it has plenty of shortcomings as a whole. I think in concept, Exit 8 is really excellent, and these concepts are what wholly benefited the video game and made it unique. The whole game is about finding particular anomalies to progress through the game and get to the eventual 8th level of it all. And that happens within this film, and that sets itself up for some unique and interesting moments, but it also sets it up for some of its biggest downfalls, I think. I think the whole finding an anomaly and going through the same repetitive cycle over and over again and trying to find something different is very interesting, and the way that this film slowly progresses, and I guess the same way that the game would progress too, it reminded me slightly of PT, which took the internet by storm when that happened. This film even has some particular moments that almost felt like it was paying homage to that, which was just really awesome to see. I think the performance from the protagonist of this film is fairly interesting enough, and he has enough depth that can be very interesting, and I think the final moments of this film, where it really relies heavily on character, worked quite a lot and made this film somewhat interesting and made it have a little bit more depth compared to a lot of video game movies, which I have never really been a huge fan of personally. And I think this has some of my favorite production design of the year. It's so committed to what the game set up, and that production design feels integral to the narrative, which is what I want when I see a craft. I want it to play an important role in the narrative. I think that benefits it entirely and adds so much more nuance to what has been built with these sets. I think the way that the anomalies are presented are very interesting, and just that white train station that is just completely empty except for one person every time walking down the hallway feels very eerie, and I love all of that atmosphere that Exit 8 has provided. However, I think the biggest downfall in this film by far, and something that I've seen quite consistently across many people that have seen this movie, is that this would feel really great as a 30-minute short film, but stretched out to a 90-minute feature film, this film just loses a whole lot of steam and feels so repetitive, and it can't help but feel that if it wants to be a direct adaptation to the video game, because that's what the game was. However, it's just seeing it in a movie and not actually looking for the anomalies and interacting with them like you would in a video game does take away from its entertainment value when you're just watching it. I also think the way that some of the anomalies are presented just provide a lot of plot holes in this, and many shortcomings. Like, they just need to see the anomaly and turn around and they'll progress. But sometimes they encounter the anomaly and run right at it when it could potentially kill them, and it's a little bit silly when you think about it too much. And I think that just doesn't quite work for me, and the film is all about trying to find these anomalies, and at times it resets its progress, and once again that is faithful to the video game. But when you're watching that as a movie, when it feels like it's progressing and they get knocked back to the start, it can feel like a bit of a blow, and really hurts a lot of the intrigue that I had with this film. I think there are severe pacing issues within it that just hurt its quality as a whole and don't make this as fun probably on a rewatch. I think that when this thing was getting set up, and what it had built up with some of its characters were interesting, but it just doesn't quite go anywhere with any depth to really go beyond a really fun 30-minute short. There's also a little bit of a twist reveal within this that feels really predictable. I mean, as soon as you start seeing these elements pop up, you pretty much know where it's going, and then it just sets it up as this big reveal, and you're like, yeah, I saw that coming. So that is a little bit disappointing, seeing that, when I think there are certain elements of this and technical crafts to this that make this a little bit better than your typical video game movie, but it's still not quite there yet in terms of just being this all-time classic within the genre. As a whole, I think Exit OK is perfectly fine, and if you're a fan of the game, I think you're in for a treat. I think you'll really, really love this movie, but as someone who has no real attachment to the game and is just kind of being exposed to this properly for the first time, yes, it had some fascinating elements to it, but I can instantly see how the game would be a lot more fun than just watching this as a film. And as a score, I'm going to have to give this one a 3 out of 5. I think it's just okay, but it's not entirely memorable in terms of its narrative, which is a shame because I think there is so much going for this that could make this an excellent film. But as a whole, I'm a little bit mixed on it, and I can't quite recommend it to everyone. And those are my thoughts towards Exit 8. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.